Here's an interview from one of our past shows on Rock and Metal Revival. If you're interested in hearing full shows, go to our Facebook page and check out our list of affiliates for times and places where you can hear Rock and Metal Revival. Right there is the latest single from the Scorpions. It's called Sign of Hope, and I'm really digging hearing some new Scorpions music here on Rock and Metal Revival. And we want to welcome, we've been trying to get him on the show for a long time, the lead singer of the Scorpions, Klaus-Meine, to the Revival. Welcome to the show, Klaus.
Hi, Greg. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
First off, let's talk about this latest single, Sign of Hope. Once again, a song of hope for the hard rock generation from the Scorpions. Tell us a little bit about this song.
Yeah, actually, we were on the road earlier this year, like in Australia and Southeast Asia, and when we came back home in March, so the coronavirus, the pandemic just started and was getting worse every other week. And we changed from the lockdown modus into the creative modus, and we kept going in the studio, in our own studios at that point back in March, working on new material, new songs. And it was so sad to watch the whole world, what was going on, the whole dramatic of the pandemic, and it was also touching to see the music community, joining together, doing a lot of projects together, writing songs, and that was exactly the way Sign of Hope came out. Just a little song straight from the heart in troubled times.
Well, and in that last question, I said once again. Now, I remember the impact of Winds of Change had during its time in history, and I can remember that video of the song with you in the square there. Could you have imagined when you were doing that video in the song what the situation would be today?
Like when we did Wind of Change?
Yes.
Well, no way. This is like 30 years ago, and back then, growing up not too far away from the Berlin Wall, and growing up in the Cold War, and this was like a whole new generation was there, and it was a positive outlook into the future, and 30 years later, it's a total different world today, and, it was amazing to see that when the Berlin Wall came down in '89, so all of a sudden there were no borders with the unification, Germany reunification, and then of course the European Union, and so all of a sudden we could travel. There were no borders, and so on and so on. And now, so many years later, with Corona, with the COVID-19 pandemic, what we see is the borders are closed again, and we're right now working on a new album, like I said, with our American producer, Greg Fiedelman, in Los Angeles, and we cannot travel to the States, and he can come over here, and the borders everywhere pretty much closed, even though, like right now over here in Germany, it's losing up a little bit, but who would have thought, like 30 years ago, like we would see a situation like this, where the borders are closed again, and
exactly.
It's for the young generation today, they don't know what it's like, to especially here in Europe, you go to Italy, you go to Spain, you go to France, and every country is a different currency, it's like traveling also for the bands that came over from America to be on tour here in Europe. So it's such a different world. All of a sudden, no more borders, and the outlook into a more peaceful world, into a peaceful future. This was what Wind of Change was all about. And today it's a whole different world, especially after September 11th, The world changed, and I thought I never would see anything like this, what we go through right now. The whole world in this lockdown with the coronavirus, This is pretty bizarre, and especially for the world of musicians, the world of culture. It's tough because we are all locked away from our audience, from our fans.
Exactly. Now, Klaus, I've been a Scorpions fan for many years, and I always enjoyed the hard driving guitar sounds of the Scorpions. And now you were just talking about a new album. Is that the kind of sound, a little harder edge, that we're going to hear on this new album?
Yeah, well, it's so funny in a way. We talk about Sign of Hope, and it's such a very soft, almost like a folky kind of little ballad, and at the same time we're talking about making a new album. But working together with Greg Fidelman, who used to work with Metallica, Slipknot, you can imagine this next album, we focus much more on the harder edge of the band, and we try to go back to the 80s, Blackout, Animal Magnetism, Love at First Sting. We try to find the old spirit again, to find the old Scorpions DNA. I mean, it's so many years ago. If we can achieve that, who knows? You know, that's a tough call. It's a challenge. I mean, anyway, it's a challenge to make a new album in 2020, with or without Corona. But when we made the decision, we've been touring so much all over the world in the last couple of years, and so everybody had the feeling it's about time for new songs, and we didn't want to go into the vault again and picking some songs that were written back in the 80s. This album, it's all brand new stuff, all new songs, and we were very picky this time to really focus on that stuff that made the Scorpions the Scorpions, and that means harder-edged album, songs that are all written by the Scorpions, no outside writers this time, and hopefully it's going to be a great album. Until now, we have a great set of songs, and unfortunately the situation going on with the project, the whole COVID-19 pandemic makes it a little difficult for us to go to America right now, and also the other way around for somebody like Greg Fidelman, our producer, to come over here to Germany, So we've been working the whole month of May. We were in the studio here, and we had Greg Fidelman joined us via Zoom, every night. For us, dinner time. For him, it was breakfast in L.A. After breakfast, Greg joined us, and we talked about the song. And then when he hung up, then we worked on the stuff. And the next day, we sent him the files to L.A. And and fortunately, with all the technologies, it's all, you can do it. It's not you have to sit and wait until this is over. We made some pretty good progress in the last couple of weeks, but now it's the point we're all ready to keep working together with Mickey D, our new drummer who joined us from Motorhead like in 2016, and Pavel Macivoda, our bass player. He lives in Poland. Mickey is in Sweden. So it's all like the drum tech is in Brazil. Guitar technique is in the UK. So it's very difficult to get all these people together. So far it's been Rudolf, Matthias, and myself. And so we've been working through the songs together with Greg and Hans Martin, our engineer. So, and it feels pretty good, we're ready to go. And of course, the overall plan is, since we had to postpone the Vegas shows in July, which is actually right now, we were supposed to play the first show the 4th of July, your very special celebration in the U.S. And unfortunately it will all postponed to next year. But when we come back next year, we'll not only play Vegas, we also want to do a tour everywhere in the U.S., and of course we hope we come back to Milwaukee. It's about time, I think.
Yes, it is about time you come back to Milwaukee. You talked about Mickey D there for a bit, coming over from Motorhead. What has Mickey brought to the Scorpions in just in terms of his drumming? Is he involved in the songwriting? How much of a part is he playing in this new album?
I mean, he brought in much of fresh energy, It's really like a fresh shot of energy with Mickey. So far, he's not been part of the songwriting process, but we haven't seen Mickey since when we returned from Singapore in March, but I know, we talked about it, and he said he has some material, and will be interesting to hear what he comes up with, but there's lots and lots of songs right now, but we're always wide open for great new songs, and let's see what the cat will bring in.
Exactly. Klaus, with the longevity and the great career that you've had with the Scorpions, I bet you've got a lot of great stories over the years. Is there any thoughts about you maybe writing a book about your time in the Scorpions?
Yeah, absolutely. And I had a few offers myself a few times. But so far, it's been always, my excuse was always, I'm so sorry, would love to do it, but we're on the road, and we play like almost 100 shows every year. I mean, last couple of years, to be honest, it was like between 50 and maybe 70, so we turned it down a little bit, but it's still a lot of touring. And I know if you want to do a project like a book, you really need some time, and you need the right guy to work with, because reading all these biographies, rock biographies, and some of them are really great, and if you do it, you want to do it right,
Exactly.
And I know it takes some time. So far, time was never right. Looks like this year's time, it wouldn't be a better time like in 2020 with all the lockdown going on and stuff, no shows we can play, and then maybe it's a good timing, maybe later this year, to get into a project like this. I don't know. Let's see.
All right. Well, here's a question I wanted to ask. A few months ago, everybody heard the story about the CIA having a hand in the Winds of Change song. I mean, did you just shake your head when you heard that story?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I met the writer of this podcast, Patrick Radden-Keefe, and he came to Germany to do an interview with me about the Moscow Movie Peace Festival. And in the middle of the interview, he confronted me with the question, Klaus, you ever heard the story that some people in the CIA claim the credit for that song? It cracked me up laughing, It's like, what can you say? I mean, these guys, they're very professional, and when you watch this thing, or better, you listen to it, you find out, or you know why this is such a big success, but there is no answer to that question. But all I can say is it's a very fascinating and pretty crazy story, but it's not true at all, and right now, Greg, you're talking to the writer of the song.
Exactly. That's what I knew I was doing that. Speaking of the Moscow Peace Festival, that was such a great event, that day when all those people came together in hard rock and metal. Klaus, do you ever think that a DVD would be coming out of that show, or a live? Was that recorded? Because you see some stuff on YouTube and you hear some stuff, but nothing really done professionally.
I know. There's some pretty good stuff out there, but it would be about time, to release like a proper DVD, because it's a great show. And when I watched it like a couple of months ago, some of our performance at the Moscow Movie Peace Festival, it's like, wow, we kick off the show with Blackout, and it's like the energy level is like amazing. It's not 100, it's 180 or even more, It's like amazing. And no wonder, I must say, we stole the show that day. And of course, the Russian audience, they knew the band, they knew our songs. And the only other band on that bill was Ozzy, who was popular in Russia even before the Berlin Wall came down. So it was a very special moment in time, and we were so very close to history when we saw the world was changing in front of our eyes, because there was a whole new generation, and the fans said, Klaus, the Cold War will be over soon, and we could feel the excitement for Western culture and for rock music in general, people went just nuts. It was Beatlemania all over the place, and a couple of months later the Berlin Wall came down, and it was such a revolution, and here in Germany it was such a peaceful revolution with not one shot was fired, and nobody died, and it was a peaceful revolution and a very special moment in time, and it feels really great in a way, we are connected with this historical event forever with a song that became something like the soundtrack of this very special moment in time.
It is outstanding. Well, Klaus, we are really looking forward to hearing new Scorpions music, a new album next year, and like you said, hopefully a stop here in Milwaukee. And we always let our artists pick out a song from their